All right, welcome back. It's still Breakfast Daily. And right now we are going to get into a conversation a little bit away from the elections. Now we're going to be talking about the literacy challenge, but I just want you to remind you that literacy is not just about reading and writing, but it's actually the fundamental or the foundation of critical thinking and also creativity and also lifelong learning. So today we are about to shine light on literacy challenge, and this is actually a platform or a program that does not only encourage young minds to fall in love with writing, but also reading, learning, and creativity, and also challenging their thinking critically. And joining us in the studio today are two incredible voices in this space. We have Demi Letsa, who is a writer, and Apioko Seriam Ashong Abe, who's the head of programs production right here at ChannelOne TV. And when you see Apioko, you always think literacy, and you always think literacy challenge, you know, because I think because she was a teacher in her past life. Hi, ladies.
Hi, Chris.
How
Hi,
are you?
Chris. Well, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How are you?
Oh, great.
But I'm still a teacher, you know. I just don't
I
do it full
know.
time.
Once a teacher, always a teacher.
I just don't do it full time.
Exactly.
But, you know, going into schools at different levels and, you know, preaching the gospel of what we have to preach.
Exactly.
We still do it.
And excitingly, a teacher that teaches teachers.
Yes.
No, teachers that teaches teachers. Yeah, so she is really a teacher. Hi, Demi.
Hi.
How's everything?
Good.
It's
I
nice
love
to
your
have you in
outfit.
this. Thank you. It's nice to have you in the studio
Thank
with
you.
us. All right, so Demi, I'm going to be starting with you. As an author, what role do you believe reading plays in shaping the minds of young people?
Oh, good. Great question, right? But let me start it with a little bit of a personal story or personal points of view. For me, reading really, I think, for as long as I can remember, has been a part of me personally, and perhaps I should thank my parents for that. But I've been a member of a public library everywhere I've lived, from Dansoman Public Library all the way to, you know, the Boston Public Library when I moved outside Ghana after secondary school. And so it's been a part of me, and I know that there are young people watching and they're wondering how, in the advent of social media, can they actually imbibe reading and make it a part of their lives, you know, over the long term. I would say that just making sure you have just a little bit of time to pick a book. Let's do it the old school way, right? There are audio books, there are e-versions of books, but just pick a book and browse through the pages if you feel like you cannot read a large tome. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just pick a book and read. And I think reading really has taken me to many places that my 2 feet have never been, you know, all around the world, because through a book, you can get to know so much, be it fiction or nonfiction, what have you. I've read all kinds of things about Japan, about Congo, about Haiti, about Afghanistan under the Taliban regime, you know, all of these things. And it just widens your worldview, your perspective, and develops your brain in many ways that you know will benefit you over the long term. So, from my perspective as an author, I would say that the habit of being an avid reader myself truly helped, because then I could put myself into. So, if I was reading this book, would I enjoy this? If I was reading this book, would this make sense? So really, I think literacy, primarily through reading, is fundamental, and it's sadly becoming a lost art in our modern generation, and we're trying to bring it back, at least, right, Apioko?
We are working hard at it. Working hard at it.
So, Apioko, how do you think reading actually enhances a young person's emotions and also intellect?
No, so I'll tell you that, and I keep saying this whenever I get the chance. Even with the literacy challenge, you know, being on this journey, you know, it started as a Right Away contest, 2017, changed to the literacy challenge. A lot of parents ask, how can I get my child to write? And I say that reading, that's actually the key. Because when you read, there's some kind of connection between your psyche, and then what you're putting on paper. So how you express yourself, the vocabulary is imprinted in your mind, the sequence of words, how you imagine that the writer would have voiced it if they were speaking aloud. You hear it in your mind's eye and you replicate it on paper. So if you want to be a strong writer, and for many people who have to write reports, go and deliver speeches and whatnot, speak fluently, they can't do it because they're not reading. So if you want to be a great writer, you need to read. You want to be a great speaker, you need to read even more. Because you know when you read, Chris, you read in your, there's a voice in your head. You know, and you have the punctuation and everything, but there's a flow that you're hearing in your mind.
And you get to learn new words.
Exactly. Exactly. And then when you don't understand a word and you go and look it up, it gives you,
still reading.
It builds your arsenal of vocabulary. You know, when I was young, I used to read the dictionary.
Right.
Me too.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I used to read the dictionary, and you begin to understand that you can use different words in different contexts. I'll give you an example. A lot of us, or we hear a lot of people say things like, "Oh, there's an impending wedding."
Yeah.
Impending is a synonym for upcoming.
Right.
But impending has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
So you don't use it to describe something that's supposed to be joyful and positive. So you say an impending storm, an impending war, an impending disaster, but not an impending wedding or an impending
or
birth.
happy feeling.
No, but people use it all the
People
time.
do.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what reading does. It
Yeah.
gives you access to these things. And when you have command over language, wherever you go in the world, I keep telling people, if we take English, for example, right? When you travel, I don't speak German, but I've been in Germany, I can understand what they're saying because I understand the roots of the words. So you see something like reduziert, it's in a shop, reduction, reduce, so it's a sale. So without even engaging the shop attendant or trying to disgrace myself with my very poor German skills, I can understand what is happening. So you travel around the world and you become a global citizen just because you've read. And what Demi has said is very important. You know, we talk about exposure. People think, oh, you need to have $1 million and be traveling around the world to be
a
exposed.
private jet.
Yes.
No.
It's about knowing things from books.
Absolutely. My very first introduction to Kenya and Nairobi was through, recently we lost Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who's one of the godfathers of post-colonial literature, through Weep Not Child. So learning about the Kenyan Revolution with Jomo Kenyatta and how their version of our Nkrumah and freedom fighters situation here in Ghana. And I was in JHS at the time. So those things have never left my mind. So when I did get to go to Kenya, I was looking out for places I've heard, I was recognizing names. I could say, oh, you're a Kikuyu. I could, make the connections. That's exposure, and it's what reading does. So you can sit on your mat without electricity, wherever you are, and still travel around the world and be very much exposed and global because you read.
Right. So, Demi, let's now talk about your writing. At which point do you realize that, look, I'm a writer. I want to put things down on paper for the world to actually enjoy what my imaginations are? Because obviously you write fiction. So at what point do you realize that, okay, I want to do this?
Well, I don't even think it came to me at any particular point, so I can't give you, it came to me at point A or point B, but I think just enjoying where creative arts, let me just broaden the scope a bit, where creative arts takes you. So you watch a movie and you may laugh, you may cry, we've all seen, let me see, the Titanic, for instance, and people cried at the end. Movies evoke emotion. So do books. So does theater. You see a live performance, an orchestra, a violinist, what have you. So creativity actually is truly tied to our emotion. And you feel that you want to be part of that community. It's almost like, I wouldn't like to say a calling because that adds some spiritual connotations to it. But it almost feels like that, like a calling of sorts. So you don't wake up one day and you're like, you know what, I'm going to try to write a book. But the story sort of came to me. And I thought, oh, what would happen if so and so? And that's from the point of creativity, right? So creativity is a big what if game. So, you know, what if Apioko styled herself in green and red today? You know, or me in these colors. We all express ourselves differently and play the big what if game. I want to add this to this and see what will happen if we did so and so. So that is how writing my novel at least came to me. I had written smaller things, which I never shared with the world when I was younger, because I just wanted to test my mettle a bit to see if I could really actually do this. And I realized that I actually do enjoy writing in addition to reading. So that combination really helped me, you know, push through in getting my debut novel out, however big it is.
This is the debut.
This is the debut. Yes.
This is the first one.
This is the debut.
And it's this big.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And I always say that the story just did not end until it ended. So I couldn't.
So you just kept going.
Cut it short, yes, because there were parts of the story that still had to be told. So just my long-winded answer to your question. I think for anybody who wants to see if they have it in them, everybody has it in them. Creativity starts from what you choose to put on in the morning. That in of itself, you've expressed yourself creatively. So everybody has that. I hear people, oh, hey, I can't do. No, you can.
So Apioko, how can young people actually translate that creativity into writing?
So, you know, it's a coaching process, and that's why people like Demi. See, Demi is a scientist. We haven't said Demi. Demi, we are calling Demi Dr. Demi. Doctor, and not just a medical practitioner, but a researcher. And she's worked with some of the biggest development space. I mean, when Demi told me she was right, I was like, oh my goodness, you know, the scientists are coming. No, but that's what it is. So, you know, in our culture, we tell our young people that you have to be a science student. If you're a science student, you can't be an art student. If you draw, then you can't be a scientist. If you are good at mathematics, then you cannot be good at dancing. You have to be one thing. But you see, innately in our culture, we are actually very big, versatile people. We are multitaskers. You know, the way we even move, you know, how can our mothers go to work dressed in, especially those days, those who are bankers or working in the civil service, they'll wear their gray, blue, black suits. And then on Sunday, they are wearing their very colorful kaba and slit, and they look like they could walk a runway in Paris. You know, we are very versatile people. Then the second thing is, now more than ever, the world thrives on versatility. So you can't have just one skill. Now we are talking about upskilling, right? So you go into a space, the more versatile you are, the more valuable you are. So for our young people, they need to see that there are people who are writing and they are versatile. They are writers, but they have other interests, they have other expertise, they have other professions. That's why someone like Demi, for me, is very important. So you see a young doctor who has always wanted to write, but was told, no, med school is for you. But now you see a scientist who has written and is taking her places, then you realize, oh no, this is something I should do. And when you see that at a young age of 11, 10, 12, 13, then you have something to aspire to, because you can picture what your life can look like. It's not everybody who is born to be a trailblazer. Let's establish that. Not everybody can wade through murky waters and find the lights at the end of the tunnel. Some people need to see that it's possible, and then they toe that line. And that's why you know, we need to see more. So if you want young people to be interested in writing, the first thing is the mentorship, the role models. It is there are Ghanaians who are writing, and this is what it's bringing to them. I meet a lot of young people, oh, I write, but my mother said it won't bring me any money, so I'll just do it as a hobby when I grow up. And then I can say to them, okay, do you know that I have XY book? This is where it has taken me. So there's a proof of concept for the business people. You show that to a young person, you know, and then also letting them understand that writing gives credence to their voice. We sit here and you know, a lot of adults, oh, they are children. But that's why I keep saying young people, they're not children.
They're young people.
Demi, you're a mom, Chris, you're a human. Look at the kinds of things you're your children say to you,
I know,
I
right?
have the younger set amongst the three of us. And the other day, right, something happened and my daughter says, that's diabolical.
Wow.
And she's 6.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, you know, then there are my moms and they called me and I picked up hello, diabolical. So she's calling me, that's my name for the week, because I said I was going to do something for her and I couldn't, so that's diabolical. You know, so their minds are big. It's just that they don't have the experience to express what lives within them.
Right.
Writing gives them a window into that. You know, Chris, even when you write a script,
Right.
sometimes don't you sit back and say, oh, I wrote that.
I did that.
Yeah.
know, right?
And it's not even giving yourself props or fans. It's just the fact that, oh, I didn't know that was in my head. That's what writing does. So a young person writes, and then now they realize that they can actually conquer the world on paper. And then they begin to wonder, how can I translate conquering the world on paper into conquering the world in real life? And then before you realize, you have an inventor,
Right.
an innovator, someone who is doing big things. And that's really how it is. So there's a role modeling, seeing the mentors, but also giving them the space to express so that they can see what the possibilities are for themselves.
Right. So how do you think the literacy challenge competition can actually help, you know, with these problems?
So I'll tell you, you know, there's a project I was working on, or I am working on with the University of Ghana Department of English. And it's a course that we're running, short course for JHS teachers. And it's how to teach English language and literature
Right.
at that level in the 21st century. So you take the literacy challenge. The first level is a writing competition. The topic, the prompt, this year we're asking young people to write about how climate change is affecting agriculture in our context as Ghanaians. So how's it affecting the individual, the family, the community, the nation as a whole, and then what kind of solutions could they proffer, could they suggest, so that we can move beyond that. Now, when you get a young person to start thinking about policy, when they get to the point where they're an MP or a minister, or they're working in a private organization that has to give funding to solve a climate change problem, they understand it, because they'll understand it from their point of view. I keep saying that climate change is a buzz term and it's going over our heads.
It's like a trend.
Yes, but when you understand that the fact that you went to the market today and your yam was 50 cedis for one tuber because they're saying it's not in season, but some years ago at this time yam is in season, you realize that's a climate change issue. That's how practical it has to be. So you get young people to think about it. And because they are very open-minded and explorative and adventurous, what happens is they will find the reason why this is happening, and because it's this big climate change thing that's causing the problem. So that's one level. They move on to level 2, the aptitude test. The aptitude test, yes, is multiple choice, but it's applied knowledge. We've spoken so many times about how our educational system is hinged on rote learning and, you know, the true and poor, pass, forget kind of thing, right? But then when you look at the test, there are situations where you've given them, you know, some cutouts with some paper clips to fasten these cutouts together. And we said, construct the digestive, the human digestive system, and then use it to answer questions. Their motor skills, tapping into memory, and then also even being able to understand that I've never seen this thing physically before, but I saw it in a textbook, but now I also have an opportunity to pretend like I'm the surgeon and I'm assembling it. Yes. Those things are invaluable. So now when you have to answer the questions about, what's the use of the large intestine in the body, you're looking at it and now you can imagine it. You can go in there. And that can also push somebody to say, okay, I'll write, but I'll write maybe biological literature or I'll write medical literature. Then you move to the life quiz, the confidence, being able to stand on a stage and answer questions I've never seen before. They're being thrown at you because we don't give them the questions ahead of. There's no a poll for the literacy challenge. No, I say that 2 years ago. No, when did we lose Queen Elizabeth? It was 2022.
Yes,
so 3 years ago.
Yeah,
we were in the process of the challenge, and then the Queen Elizabeth passed away. And the grand finale, which is a live quiz, was just, I think, 4 days after her passing. So we incorporated questions because there's a current affairs bit in there. They were able to answer every single question. And I was looking at the adults in the room. They didn't know the answers.
Wow.
And we didn't tell them that these questions were coming. So this tells you that these are young people who are plugged in. And because, you know, they write, there's a bandwidth for research and for knowledge assimilation and being able to distill it. And you see that. So that's what the Literacy Challenge does.
Yeah.
And for us, on a national level, it starts a dialogue about what our education should look like and what we should be paying attention to.
Now, talking about reading and obviously social media, it's 2025 and there's, you know, there's influx of different social media platforms. And sometimes these platforms seem to be not just a learning platform, but at the same time, they can be distractions. Do you think there's a reading crisis today because of the advent of social media?
Oh, certainly. But coming back to many good points that Apioko made, through at least this literacy challenge for this year, I think the topic actually is really important. We all have heard or have seen of Greta. You know,
Greta.
This
The
young
activist.
activist, for climate change. So it can really take you places. And I just want to push a little bit about parental encouragement because they really need it. Very often in our cultural setting, we rather have parental discouragement, you know, rather than parental encouragement. So I'd like to urge all parents listening to just give them the confidence that they need, because that's all that is lacking. Like what Apioko said, when you give them the opportunity, knowledge assimilation is there. How to express it is also there, but they may be lacking the confidence because, you know, of their age and immaturity. But if you're able to push them, they should be able to. Reading as a national crisis, yes. That is my considered opinion. I will die on this hill. I can't tell you in my professional life the number of people I have interviewed, number of national service, you know, persons I have taken on who cannot write a paragraph on anything, which is really sad, which is, you know, in direct contrast to, first class upper in, you know, all sociology, that, whatever, you know, their areas of study was. And they just cannot do these very basic things. So certainly reading is a national crisis. When was the last time you saw a kid reading a book? Just let's think about it. It's always either they're on their phone or something else. Yes.
It's always on the phones or the tablets.
And we who have, you know, children in these modern times, we're trying to get them off the phone and limit screen time because research has shown that that does not fully develop the brain. It only processes in one channel and not the rest. You know, we all say the information superhighway. But that is not only limited to social media. There's so much. The paper, we have, you know, our Ghanaian Daily Graphic, there's the Mirror on the weekends. Nobody takes these things. You know, the radio and TV channels try to do their best with the newspaper reviews and all that. But this culture is being lost, particularly in the younger generation. When we were growing up, there were newspaper stands. I remember my mother will always send me to go and buy a set. There was the set, right? I think it was the Mirror, the Times, the Spectator, and something else. You buy it as a set, and you know, you'd bring it home, and this was how our parents at least consumed information because there was no social media. Yes, social media is positive. It has, you know, opened up the world in many ways, but also sitting down to pick a textbook, to pick a novel, to pick whatever it is that, you know, the case may be. Open it up and actually use your eyes to see the words, read it out, because that deepens and adds depth to your knowledge. It's not just social media learning is very passive and not active. So active learning is where the neurons are, you know, making those connections in the synapses. That is where you retain, that is where your brain puts it in its memory bank to be able to recollect in the future and all of that. How much of, you know, you could scroll on social media for an hour. How much of it will you remember a week later? You know, not much of it, unless it's something really like Agrada going to jail or something like that. But
say that again.
But outside of that, you know, actual learning, you have to unfortunately rely on some of these traditional ways also. So I know the kids always have that argument, yes, I'm on my phone, but I'm learning. Well, yes, you may be learning because there are apps that are, intended for learning purposes, but are you also not just, social mediaing your afternoon away? So I would really encourage parents, limit screen time, advocate for other alternative forms of learning that are outside of social media. Just go back to how you learned things as a child, right? Encourage play, encourage social interaction, teamwork and bonding, because these kids, forget social interaction because they're always on their phones, and it's a solitary thing, right? Because the people you're interacting with are not even real, right? You don't know them, but have you played with your neighborhood friend who may be of a different tribe, who may be of a different socioeconomic level, who may be of a completely different background? And that's how we grew up, because we knew everybody who was in our neighborhoods. Lately in Ghana, we don't know
anybody.
Who is our neighbor, who is your neighbor. We don't know so much, but these things teach you how to relate to people. And coming to the work field, you have to work with people. You have to be able to relate to people. If you're a team lead, you have to be able to understand people, understand what motivates them, to be empathetic. All these things that a transformational leader, a visionary leader has to possess. How are you going to do that if you're always in this solitary mood, pressing your phone and consuming, 90% not entirely necessary information? I don't want to say junk, so I'll say it in a better way.
Not entirely necessary.
I actually like the fact that we spoke about this, because I think yesterday I saw two contents that popped up my phone, and it's people that are now advocating for more intellectual stuff on social media. They're tired of anybody just picking a mic and everybody believing them. So they want to see more researchers, they want to see more doctors, they want to see people that have experience and actually gone out to, learn, teach people, instead of just anybody picking up, a mic and then talking to us and people believing that these are the facts, because it's really playing with the minds of people. Anyway, before I let you go, or before Apioko gives us a rundown of, how people can actually apply for the literature challenge, what's the title of your book? And let us read 2 lines or 3 lines of the book. Let's have an idea of what this book is about.
I love this book, though. I love it.
So the title of the book, as you can see, Chris, is The 28th February House.
Okay.
Now, it's loosely based on the events that happened in Ghana on 28th February 1948. And, if you recall, from history classes, social studies, and what have you, that was the day when the ex-servicemen from World War II were marching to the Castle Osu, which was the seat of government at the time, to present their petition to the British colonial government regarding their benefits, because they had been promised all these benefits if they went to war to fight for the British during World War II. But they had since returned. World War II had ended in 1945, and as of 1948, no benefits that had been promised had come. So on that day, 3 ex-servicemen died. Those are historical facts, but I added a 4th fictional character. And it tells the story, but it also gives you some insight into the revolutionary cause for independence around that time, because the 48 events sparked, a lot of the work that people had been, J.B. Dankwa, Bedema, Kwame Nkrumah himself also had been doing in the background, and led to our independence in 1956. It is not a history book. It's a work of fiction and a novel, and it comes down also to contemporary Ghana, where the descendant of the British colonial officer, who was Colin Imre, meets the descendant of one of the Ghanaians whose grandfather was killed. So 2 people whose great-grandparents committed atrocities against each other on the 2 sides of the divide. Sides, one for the British government, one for the Ghanaian cause, the Ghanaian nationalist cause. And we see what happens if they can overcome this history that they have inherited. So I'd encourage everybody to just find Readers Hub on Instagram. Rogale Bookstore as well. Kingdom Books also has it. And get yourself a copy of this novel.
Right, right. So, Apioko, how can people join the Literacy Challenge?
All right, so it's very simple. We're on level 1, which is the essay competition. So you actually have to write the essay to enter the competition. So I'll put out the topic. We've given you snippets of it, but this is it. In not less than 600 words. So that means you can write 600 words or more. In not less than 600 words, write about the effects of climate change on agriculture in Ghana. You know, what are the effects on families, communities, individuals, and Ghana as a whole? And then what solutions would you suggest to make sure that these effects don't become a big problem for us, okay? Now, it has to be in your own handwriting, okay? In your own handwriting. You have to be between 11 and 15 years old to write this essay as well. So at the time they are submitting the essay, you should either be 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15 to enter the competition. And then you send your entry to, you can bring it to the front desk of ChannelOne TV here at Tesano in Accra, front desk of City FM at Adabraka also in Accra, or if you're from beyond Accra, you can you can mail it to us, P.O. Box 14123 Accra Central, P.O. Box 14123 Accra Central, and then you send it in. But make sure you send it early so I can arrive. The deadline for submission of entry is Saturday, the 26th of July, so you don't have a lot of time. Saturday, 26th July, we need to receive all of those. Now, from there, we proceed to level 2, but we need to get the top 50 from the essays, so that's how you enter. And then one critical thing, please make sure you add all of your contact details. Mommy's phone number, daddy's phone number, your teacher's phone number, their email address, whatever it is, just so that we can find you. If you're sending us, you know, through snail mail, through the P.O. box, then of course your return address, so we can write to you if we have to. You know, it's very important. We receive essays all the time and then we can trace them.
All right, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, and it was important that we had this conversation.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking.
Chris, sorry, quickly before you go, our sponsors.
Okay,
I want to say a thank you to Belmu, GB Investment, and SIC for believing in the cause of young people writing and their development.
All right, thank you. A big thank you to our sponsors, and thank you for also, you know, staying with us. Now it's time for us to take a quick break, and then definitely we're going to go back to the elections. But we've been speaking to Demi Letsa, who is actually an author, and Apioko Seiram Ashong Abe, who's also an author, but also the head of programs production right here on ChannelOne TV. We'll be right back.